Hello and welcome to our next lecture on narcissism. And in this lecture, we'll be looking at signs and red flags that you need to be aware of. You need to know that you could recognize them when you are dating somebody who might be higher on narcissistic traits. People with narcissistic traits, and not necessarily with full-on NPD, are everywhere. It's the phenomena of our times and our culture. It's not only about the type of parenting anymore or genetics, but about the world we live in, where we can, like we said, we can follow celebrities, go to the same shops and restaurants as them, copying their behavior and feel as if we experience to some degree the world they live in. Let's have a look at several warning signs and red flags that are applicable to dating and living with a person that has those traits. So first of all, let's start with dating a narcissistic person. So first red flag would be things develop too fast. The person you meet can seem that they are overly interested in you. They give you tons of compliments. They are looking after you and showing you that they have serious intentions. They might admit that they are in love with you way too soon for what can be considered as normal by most. They might be asking you to become their girlfriend or boyfriend or even fiancé, or telling you that they would love to share their life with you starting now. And you might be thinking, wow, finally I met someone who wants to love me and share their love with me. Though at the back of your mind you might be a bit surprised at how quickly the things unfolding between you two. And this is often referred to as love bombing, which can be a sign of dating a narcissist. Secondly, it's self-centeredness. People with NPD typically love being admired, if not for their looks, then for their achievements, which they will bring to the table as soon as they can. Of course, there is nothing wrong with achieving things, goals and accomplishments in life, and many of us want to succeed in career and life, but this is done in exaggerated way, and where the person is likely to amplify what they've actually accomplished, where they do it excessively, almost like a child. Look at me, I'm here. And even they would lie about their own achievements. Or they will take a little bit of truth and then lie the rest, so it was amplified as a big story or big accomplishment. But try to become aware if they actually pay interest to what you are saying about yourself and your own achievements. Do they ask any follow-up questions about you? Or try to quickly steer back the conversation to them, where they talk about their own achievements. So the next red flag. They are always a victim. At some point they might tell you a story, usually of their childhood or a previous relationship where they were the victim and suffered from some kind of abuse. And if you have a great deal of empathy, then naturally you will sympathize with this person and feel sorry for them. And of course, anything can happen to anyone, and there are many people, including some of us, who had pretty terrible childhoods or not enough emotional support from our parents, and some of us maybe were in unhappy abusive relationships, so of course you won't even question that at first. But the further you go with this relationship, the longer you live with them, especially when you start living with them, the more you will hear this story, and stories where they suffered. At some point you might question, how is that possible that all their friends betray them? How is that possible that their parents were so bad and their exes were so bad? Is it true what he or she is saying about his narcissistic mother, that it was worth cutting her off from his life? He's telling me that everyone abandoned him, but last week he told me that I should learn to block and cut off people from my life too. So what's going on? So the next one we are looking at here, it's whilst we are talking about being a victim, we should mention here this. They never blame themselves for anything, and you will see it again and again. It's always someone else's fault. as it's easier to process these experiences, especially when it affects the ego of narcissistic person. It's easy to blame others than to analyze and admit own wrongdoing. Pay attention to what they say about their previous relationships. Did these relationships finish because, for instance, both individuals grew apart or had some differences? Or do they blame their exes for failed relationships, like full on? So the next one is, you will notice, is the arrogant attitude. At some point you will see it. Narcissists tend to be on a high scale of what we call arrogance. Basically, narcissists feel superior to other people and can be rude or abusive when don't get what they want. What happens is that narcissists actually have a low self-esteem and self-worth as a rule. Or in other words, they don't like themselves that much. They might despise or hate themselves, and they might really suffer from this. So arrogance then serves as a coping mechanism when dealing with other people. Try to notice how they treat other people. For example, waiters, car mechanics, sales and customer service assistants. How do they talk to them? How they communicate with them? And the final one in this video, we're talking about control and manipulation. These are the traits that you might see a bit later in the relationship. What you need to realize is that controlling doesn't mean that the person is saying to you directly, I don't want you to do this. But instead, it can involve so much more. Controlling behavior starts as romantic and caring behavior, which then gradually changes into overly caring. It might be difficult to say to that person that you don't need him or her to check up on you every hour, and that you would like to make a decision yourself about what you want from the menu, for example, or where you want to go on holidays. But they can make plans for both of you, and they will expect you to be grateful. And the manipulation usually comes in form of manipulating your feelings. For example, through making you feel guilty if you do something that they don't like or approve of, and making you guilty for things you haven't actually done too. But that again is happening throughout the relationship, maybe not in the first dates.